Namaste, Sakshi, Telugu Prajala Manasakshi, special immigration show ki Swagatam. Today we are back with our expert attorney Bhanu B. Lindra Garu, BBA Law Group PC, 17 years of experience in law offices. If you have any questions regarding immigration, feel free to call us. Our attorney will glad to answer your questions. So before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show not a legal advice. It's just for information purpose only. So Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for this. If you need any specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. And we'll be also taking any general immigration questions along with today's topic. So without any further delay, let's talk to Bhanu Garu. Hello, Bhanu Garu. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for inviting me again on the show. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Bhanu Garu. So can you please provide information on law offices and also practice areas experience?
Sure, definitely, Prasanna Garu. And my name is Bhanu Lindrandi. I'm an immigration attorney practicing immigration law in the US for 17 years now. And my firm name is BBA Law Group PC. I founded this law firm in 2008. We exclusively practice in immigration laws, and we represent in all types of immigration matters: employment-based immigration, family-based immigration, and investor visa-based immigration. All kinds of visas basically we do in our firm. Basically, I've been representing in these matters for several years right now. And our firm website is, if they want to have more details about our firm and me, they can actually visit my website, which is www.bbalawgroup.com. And the address is, my office address is 950 Hunden Parkway, Suite 355, Hunden, Virginia, 20170. My email ID is bhanu@bbalawgroup.com. My office number is 703-496-7722. They can reach us any way they want if they need any help with their immigration matters, basically. Thank you very much.
Right. Thanks for the info, Bhanu Garu. So as we all know that we are continuing the same last week episode, right? So H1B registrations are completed, what to expect, part 4. So this is continued the last topic. So we will continue the knowledge session with this week and along with news updates on latest immigration followed by question and answers. So Bhanu Garu, before we get into the topic, do we have any latest updates on immigration this week?
Not many. Only the update we have from the last week is that now they basically updated that F1 students who are coming into this country, who are pursuing their education, basically,
Okay.
they can actually, what do you call that? They can actually apply for their OPT authorization, employment authorization, whether it's a first OPT, initial OPT or a STEM OPT employment authorization online now. Before, in order to apply for OPT EAD cards, they have to send the file physically to the USCIS. Now they can actually upload online. They can actually apply online right now through the USCIS website, basically. So that is actually a lot of convenience to the OPT students, because we know that many times what happens is OPT students, when they're filing by paper, they're missing some kind of information, like missing the signature, లేకపోతే proper check enclosed check అవ్వడము ఇట్లాంటి ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ అవుతా ఉంటాయి వాళ్ళకి. Now online ఏంటంటే basically when they file online, automatically they have to go through those signature processes and have to pay the proper fees and everything to the USCIS. So that's one good thing which USCIS has done, providing an option to file online for the OPT EAD cards and with initial OPT or a STEM OPT. So that is the update we have for this week from last week. Not too much movement in immigration laws if it comes to the USCIS. But there's one more update also which is there in this week, is that USCIS has written an open letter to all the internal agencies that USA should stop implementing public charge rule that has come into effect in 2019. They said that they basically sent an open letter to all the agencies saying that they actually removed it from the Code of Federal Regulations, that is basically from immigration regulations, basically, and also they should stop asking any information pertaining to that, and they should not deny anyone any benefit pertaining to public charge rule that has been passed in 2019. Now, the memo or the regulations guidance provided in 1999 pertaining to the public charge rule still governs right now. That is one important update which we have. Of course, this has been happened 3 weeks ago, but they sent an open letter actually yesterday to all the agencies, so that now these agencies should not even ask or issue any RFE pertaining to that. Now we've seen few RFEs coming asking about the public charge rule. We are explaining to them that they should not ask that information. But now I think even that will stop happening with this public charge rules, basically.
Right. Thanks for the update, Bhanu garu. We have a caller, Satyanarayana from Texas. Satyanarayana, please go on. Hello? Hello? Maybe I think
Hello?
call drop. Yes, Andy, please go on.
Yeah, my question is, recently I moved from one employer to another employer. He filed H-1B transfer, and recently I got an NOID saying, like asking for the US master's degree because you filed this petition as CAP exempt. So I'm unable to understand why USCIS asking to submit H-1B masters from US.
I'm not sure, sir. Basically, I need to see the file completely. And I have to review the notice of intent to deny, as well as the filing of the H-1B petition by your employer. Before that, it's almost impossible for me to comment on this case because I could be wrong, whatever I'm telling, because the question which you gave me did not give me all the information on properly answering this call.
Oh, okay.
Right. Thanks for calling. And we have another caller, Shekhar from California. Shekhar, please go on.
Hi. Hi, this is regarding the Dropbox related question. One of my friends traveled to India last week, and he is kind of stuck with he got COVID, and he is kind of stuck. He's okay, but he's taking rest at home. So but he has an appointment on 19th of April, which is next Monday. So my question is, can he send somebody else as a proxy to submit the H-1B extension? Is all booked? Dropbox is booked, or should he go in person to submit the passport and paperwork in the consulate?
I think they require him to submit in person, basically. I do not know whether any proxy person can submit any documents on behalf of anybody, especially with the passport and everything, because of the security reasons and other fraud reasons and everything. So I think it's better for him to reach out to the consulate and seek their advice on this. He can send an email to them and see basically whether they can provide any kind of an advice to him on that issue.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Right. Thanks for calling, Andy. Yes. For any legal immigration services, and also if you need any specific legal advice, please contact Attorney Bhanu garu through email or phone number. I can tell you email and phone number. Phone number is 7034967722 and email is bhanu@bbalawgroup.com. Website is www.bbalawgroup.com. He's always ready to help you guys. So please carry on. And so Bhanu garu, and previous 3 weeks నుంచి మనం డిస్కస్ చేసుకుంటున్నాం H1 registration complete అయిపోయాయి, and then lottery process, first lottery కూడా finish అయింది. And then, so my question is, what are the steps to file a petition once the H1B registration is selected?
The first step is once H-1B petition is selected, basically, they have to file labor condition application with the Department of Labor for the position which they intend to hire him, and also for the location where they intend to him to work or seek his services, basically, especially if it's an IT consulting company, businesses where they actually require their employees work at the service of third-party client sites, then they have to take LCS accordingly. And then once the LCA is certified, then they have to prepare Form I-129 and its supplements, basically, along with other supporting documentations like employer statements or beneficiary education documents, positions and everything, all this information. And they have to file this H-1B petition with the USCIS. And that USCIS also, they cannot file with any office they want to file. They have to file with a particular office or particular service center, I would say. That's what it is, basically. What has been advised by the USCIS to be submitted for. For example, once the cases get selected in the lottery, then USCIS issues a notification to the employer saying that this particular individual case has been selected in the registration, and this is the registration number, And also, this case must be filed at the required USA service center. That's where they have to send the files to that service center, basically. And if they can do that, they should be okay, basically.
Right, Bhanu garu, we have another caller, Kumar from Virginia. Kumar, please go on.
Yeah, hi. My question is like, recently we applied for the H4 EAD extension and we got the approved notice copy, but more than around like 60 days, we haven't still received the EAD physical card. So what is the process we need to do on these cases?
So sometime, I mean, is this the H4 EAD you're talking about, sir? What kind of an EAD you're talking about?
H4 EAD.
H4 EAD. But H4 EAD has been approved as per your notification, basically, not just the H4.
Right.
H4 EAD also has been approved.
H4 EAD, yeah, H1 is approved. H4 EAD copy also approved.
Okay.
And we got.
But did not receive the physical card, basically.
Sorry?
But you did not receive the physical card. That's what you're saying.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay. Sir, the whole thing is basically is that sometimes the cards can be lost in the mail. So you better call the USCIS customer service and let them know that you did not receive the card yet. Sometimes what happens is that if it's more than 30 days, if the USPS cannot deliver it to you, they will send back that card to the USCIS and the USCIS will destroy that card. And if that happens, basically, then unfortunately, you have to refile again for the replacement of the EAD card or the renewal of and again for the duplicate EAD card, basically. So I would advise you to, first thing is call the customer service center and talk to them and tell them that this is what is actually happening, that your EAD card was approved 2 months ago, but however, you did not receive the physical card in mail as of today, as of the date also,
Right. Actually, we tried to call to the customer service. The auto systeming is responding all the time. And they're saying like already it is delivered to the mailing address, but we received only approved petition copy.
Tell them that it did not deliver. That's what it is basically, and talk to them on that.
Okay.
And basically try to press some kind of a command, whatever it is on automation system, so it will take you to the customer service representative, basically, And in that way, talk to them and see basically what they can guide you. And most likely they'll ask you to resubmit again one more I-765. That's what they do. Usually that's what they do. That's what we have done. But clients are resistant to submit again. That's where the whole this circle goes basically. But I think you call the customer service one more time, talk to them, and see basically what they will tell you. Based upon that, you make a decision whether to refile one more 765 or not.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Bhanu garu, once H1B cap subject petition is approved, what is the next step? What we have to do?
Petition approve ayinteni lekapothe registration approve aitena.
Yes, petition approve ayin tarvata.
Petition approve ayin tarvata, then they will be gaining H1B status in this country. And because it's a cap petition, the earliest H1B status can come into them is on October 1, 2021. Okay. And the thing here is basically is this, Andy. If somebody wants to, if sometimes what happens is people don't file for the change of status in the US. They'll ask for the consular processing also. Okay. When they ask for the consular processing, that means if H1B is approved, they have to go abroad, apply for a visa at the consulate, and then come back to the US, basically. Okay. And if they can do that, then it becomes very, that's the way, once they come back, then they'll be on H1B status and they'll be able to start working on H1B visa, basically. Okay. So if somebody's H1B petition is approved, there are two things can happen. One is with the change of status. That means whatever status they have now, that will end on September 30th, and the H1B will kick in from October 1. Or they can actually may require to go abroad, get visa stamped, and then come back to start working on H1B visa in this country.
So, Bhanu garu, what to expect during the consular processing?
There's a plenty of things to be expected at the consular processing. First, when you go to the consular processing, there are two aspects which they look into. One is basically is that who is the employer, what is the what do they do, and everything basically. And also what is the position they're actually filing this petition for. whether the position qualifies as a specialty occupation or not. You know, all those questions will they look into. After that, they look into is whether who is the beneficiary, whether beneficiary qualifies for the position or not, and beneficiary has truthfully stated all the information in the DS 160 or not. All those facts will come into existence basically. You know, and if they can get into all that information basically, and if they can basically look into all that information, then yes, I mean, based upon that, if they then the consulates can think whether the petition is approvable or not, then they'll issue a visa. If not, consulate may again send it for they may refuse the visa under the section 221G administrative processing. What do they mean is basically is that they will not issue the visa for you at the time. They will hold on to your visa application, and they will basically go on do the administrative processing, background check, basically to verify the information provided in the H-1B petition or in the visa application is true and correct, and it's genuine one basically. You know, sometimes those processings will take time at the consulates basically, and during those times basically consulate may refer or advise USS to conduct a site visit also basically, and site visits can happen, administrative site visits can happen to verify whether the position is bona fide or not and all those things. And once those are done, and based upon the report given by the USCIS, FDNS, and USCIS basically, and they may issue the visa for the candidate. It all depends upon that. So there's a lot of process goes at the consulate basically. So we have to make sure that we thoroughly understand what information is there, what information is not there, and whether it's true or verified or not. Make sure that you carry all the documents required, originals and duplicates also with you, and then keep them with you. Sometimes you may not have certain original documents available to you because if they're not yours, but if they're not available, that's okay. It's not the problematic. But as long as you know exactly the information, what is there, and you're properly able to talk about that at the consulates, you should not have any problem. Be prepared, them asking you about the questions about your client, your project, your job, and all those questions can come to you, but you have to make sure that what's your job is, what it is. I'm just talking about this only in the H-1B perspective. I'm not talking about it because we're talking about the what we have to happen at the consulate. So your job and your job is not there and all those things basically, you know. So in that way, they can actually look into it and then get rolling basically. That's the way it should be done. Yeah.
Okay. So Bhanugaru, is there still a travel ban that prohibits CAP subject H-1B beneficiaries from traveling to the US?
No. It ended on March 31, 2021. They did not extend after that. So now anybody, any type of visa holders can actually apply for a visa abroad and then come to the US. But the whole problem here is now there is a huge COVID-19 surge across the world basically. And today WHO has released new numbers saying that they're astonishingly high. They've never been this high during the entire period of the COVID-19 pandemic basically. And also now again, India is shutting down. Recently, there've been an announcement that they're shutting down the Mumbai consulate and Kolkata consulate, and also Delhi consulate also is going to be shut down very soon, basically. And the same thing can happen with the Chennai, India also. So if those things can happen, Chennai and Hyderabad also, basically, you know, and if those things can happen, basically, obviously, it's going to further delay in issuance of the visas because they're not accepting any more new candidates, new applicants to visit the consulates because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Surge in India, basically, you know, and even our office also, basically, we are also asking people to work from home in a back home office in India. We have a branch office in India, basically. We're telling them to work from home, basically, because it's very difficult for them to work from the office because of the surge in the COVID-19 there, you know. So those things again can cause a difficulty in delay in issuance of visas, but otherwise there is no problem for them to apply for a visa and coming to the US now.
So Bhanugaru, many of them are asking about your personal appointment. So it's time to another announcement.
Sure.
So, for any legal immigration services, and if you need any specific legal advice, please contact Attorney Bhanugaru. So phone number is 7034967722 and email is bhanu@bbalawgroup.com. Website is www.bbalawgroup.com. He's always ready to help you guys. So కాల్ చేయండి అండ్ ఈమెయిల్ కూడా చేయొచ్చు, వెబ్సైట్కి లాగిన్ అయ్యి భానుగారు పర్సనల్ అపాయింట్మెంట్ తీసుకోవచ్చు. సో భానుగారు, రిగార్డింగ్ RFE, I have a question. So can a beneficiary directly respond to an RFE?
It depends upon what type of application it is, basically. And if it's an H-1B petition, he cannot. It's only the employer can respond to the RFE. You know, if it's a I-485 application or a 765 application or a H-4 application, then the beneficiary can respond to that RFE directly, basically. Okay. And that's what it is. Also depends upon what type of case it is. It all depends upon that, where beneficiary can respond, where an employer can respond if they want to respond directly, or they can use the help of the attorneys on their behalf by themselves, and they can basically respond to those RFEs through those attorneys, basically.
Okay. So, Vanugaru, will a G28 be required if the electronic registration is submitted by an attorney?
Yes, absolutely. And we did provide our we do provide our organization representations basically in those cases. Yeah.
Okay. సో భానుగారు ఫస్ట్ లాటరీలో ఛాన్సెస్ రాని వాళ్ళకి డినైల్ అయిన వాళ్ళు చాలా మంది ఆర్ఎఫ్ఈ పడిన వాళ్ళు విత్డ్రా చేసుకుంటూ ఉంటారు కదా పిటిషన్స్. సో సెకండ్ లాటరీ ఛాన్స్ వరకు వెయిట్ చేయడం బెస్ట్ అంటారా లేక విత్డ్రా చేసుకోవడం బెటర్ ఆప్షనా? వాట్ యు సజెస్ట్?
I would tell them to wait, because I'm pretty confident that there is going to be a second lottery this year also, because there will be many cases won't be filed because of the changes in the circumstances, or some people will have multiple offers. They may take only one offer in them. So those other offers will be futile for those employers, basically. So I'm very confident that there's going to be a second lottery on this, basically. So I will advise anybody to withdraw their registrations, basically. Let them be there on the system as long as they're not denied or rejected. If they're in the submitted stage, let them be there in the system. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay. So how does premium processing work? ఈ fiscal year 2020 premium processing ఉందా లేదా?
Present అయితే ఉంది మేడం, ఇప్పుడైతే ఏం తెలియదు వాళ్ళు. And I'm not expecting that they will remove the premium processing. They will continue to have it. The reason is because of the fees. It's $2,500 additional fee, and they need that money now, USC has. And second thing is basically also, it doesn't make any sense to actually remove the premium processing in any circumstances. I strongly believe that premium processing was removed in the past few years because just to cause an inconvenience to the employers and the employees. That was the intention. It is, even though it's at the cost of the USA's revenue, they did that just to cause inconveniences. And I don't think current administration is for that. So I don't think they will continue the premium processing.
So Bhanugaru, how can we track the status of our H1B petition? Is that possible or not?
Yeah, the only way you can track is basically is that online availability USA's case status tool, which is available on their website at www.usas.gov. That is, there you have a case status tool. There you can check and you can verify. But you have to understand this online status, which is available on the website, is not completely accurate. You cannot rely on that website information, basically, because that website sometimes is only accurate up to 70%. Sometimes doesn't provide updates because human beings have to update that information in the systems. Basically, sometimes those things cannot happen properly. Therefore, website is not all the time accurate. You have to always you have to rely on the communications you receive, official communications you receive from the USCIS to determine the status of your case. But yes, they have provided an online case status tool where you can actually go and check the H1B status over there.
So Bhanugaru, nowadays many of them are getting RFEs, right? So does RFE get rejected?
It all depends on Prasanna Garu. And see, many of the RFEs are answerable, basically. See, they can only ask you the information pertaining to certain information like specialty occupation kaniyandi, as the beneficiary qualifications kaniyandi. If there is any other doubts like project unda leda, actually there's a genuine petitioner kada, aa issues మీద వాళ్ళు అడిగితే అడగచ్చు. అంతకంటే ఎక్కువ పోలేదు కదా. They have to go within that purview only, those RFEs. If the position is genuine, if the position is specialty occupation, and if the beneficiary has the qualifications, how come they cannot deny that petition unless they want to arbitrarily deny that, basically, right? So, and as I said last time also, issuing an RFE is one way a good thing because you know where your case is standing in the processing. That means you know that US is actually working on your case, and once you respond to the RFE, then they're going to adjudicate your case also, basically. So, not every RFE will result in denial. Very few. Maybe 1 in 100 or 1 in 2 in 100 maybe get denied in the RFE stages because they may not have enough information to substantiate the fact that they do want to. I'm talking only in H1B perspective only. This is the same thing with every other category case visas also. Like a green card avaniyandi, like a H4 avaniyandi, O visa avaniyandi. L visa avunandi, A visa ayina avunandi, but I'm talking about only in the perspective of H-1B visa because it's a general topic for many people are aware of. That's why I'm talking only in the H-1B perspective. Please be aware that whenever I'm talking, giving some examples, that's where I'm coming from, you know. And so that's what it is basically. So I mean, it's very rare we see denials after the RFAs because once we respond to the RFAs, we are confident that we are doing our job. So it's very likely that USAs will approve those cases basically.
Right. So, Bhanugar, if we travel during H-1B petition and registration time or lottery period, so does it impact our chances of H-1B petition?
Traveling while registration time or during the lottery time impacting H-1B petition approval, it depends upon what stage they are in filing H-1B petition with the USCIS. Or basically, if the registration will not matter whether you are in the US or in India or you are in anywhere in the world, basically. Registration can be done, basically, you know. So only thing which they can do is basically is that if the H-1B, once the registration is over, once the case is selected in the lottery, if the H-1B petition has been filed, basically, then they have to worry about whether to travel or not. Basically, it depends upon how the H-1B petition has been filed at the time. If the H-1B petition has been filed at the time as a change of status petition, or whether H-1B petition has been filed for the consular processing, those factors will come into existence to determine whether the individual's travel while H-1B petition is pending will impact somebody's H-1B petition. If somebody travels abroad during the gestation period, that is the time we have 90 days time to file H-1B petition or travel abroad, and then come back to US before the expiration of that period, the duration we have, the 90-day period through which we can file H-1B petition, then there should not be any problem for them. They should be able to file H-1B petition whether with a change of status or consular processing. They should not have any problem with it, basically, you know. And so it all depends upon basically whether travel will affect H-1B petition means it all depends upon whether it's a change of status petition or it's a consular processing petition, whether it has been filed after they travel or it is or they're traveling after filing, or it's been filed after they travel and come back to in US. Those questions, all those factors will come into it.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, Bhanugaru. Thanks for your valuable time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. You know, today I've been a little bit busy in the office, a little bit tired too. I'm sorry for that. And thank you all. And thank you, Sakshi TV and the entire team. And thank you, Prasanna Garu. You've been always pleasant, always give this opportunity to me, and really appreciate that, you know, and hopefully we will continue the tradition, you know, and you have a wonderful day.
Sure, Bhanugaru. Thank you very much. ఇది వాళ్ళ స్పెషల్ ఇమిగ్రేషన్ షో. మరో ఎపిసోడ్ లో మళ్ళీ కలుద్దాం. అంతవరకు నమస్తే.